Welcome to part 2 of this short video series that shows a minor refurbishment of a Stuart No.8 horizontal model steam engine. In the last video I made an initial assessment of the engine. In this video I'll make the baseboard. I have a workshop techniques video on making baseboards. I'll put a link to this video in the description below. I started the process by cutting a piece of 3/4 inch plywood to a size of 9 inches by 5 inches. After a light sanding to remove any rough corners from the plywood, I start the process of laminating it. This clip shows a piece of mahogany strip being glued onto the end of the baseboard and being clamped in position. I use medium viscosity cyanoacrylate adhesive, also known as super glue, to glue the strip. Next, I repeated the process at the other end of the baseboard. I'm using 1/8 inch by 1 inch mahogany strips to laminate the baseboard. I get the strips from Northeastern Scale Lumber. I'll put a link to their website in the description below. This clip shows me gluing the strip onto the plywood and then clamping with woodworking clamps. After the glue had dried for about an hour, I used a hand plane to trim the edges of the mahogany strips level with the plywood base. I have found that electric planes are too vicious for this type of work as they tend to splinter the wood. The hand plane is much better and trims the strip wood down quite quickly. It's okay to leave a small lip on the strip as this will be sanded flush later. I then took the baseboard over to the bandsaw and trimmed the ends of the mahogany strips off. It's important to avoid marking areas of the strips that will remain on the baseboard with the saw blade. Because of this, I usually leave around 1/16 of an inch at the end of each strip. Next, I use the belt sander to sand all surfaces flush with each other, taking care to keep all corners at right angles. I sand the top and bottom of the baseboard to remove any lips from the mahogany strips. I repeated the same process for the 2 remaining sides. The photo shows the mahogany strips clamped while the glue was drying. This photo shows the baseboard with all sides laminated with mahogany strips. The next step was to install the planks on the top of the baseboard. They are the same as the mahogany strips, although I usually call them planks from this point forward. On full-size engines, this is where engineers would walk around an engine. The next step is probably one of the most important when making a baseboard. It's essential to lay out the planks on the baseboard to ensure there is an overlap on each side. This will give sufficient area for the planks to adhere to. This clip shows me laying out the planks to determine the starting point for laying them. With this baseboard, the center is the right place for starting the planking. I have drawn a line down the center of the baseboard and I'm laying out one side to check that there is an overlap. This highly speeded up clip shows me laying the planks on the baseboard. First, I apply glue to the plywood, then I apply the plank, taking care to close any gaps between the planks, and lastly, I clamp the plank in place. I usually press the plank onto the baseboard until the glue grabs before putting the clamps on. I wait for around 20 minutes for the glue to dry and then move on to the next plank. Excess glue often squeezes out between the planks, so I wipe it off with a piece of paper towel. A good thing about cyanoacrylate adhesive is that it dries hard so it can be easily sanded off. Wood glue tends to dry with a rubbery texture and is more difficult to sand. I continue the planking process until all planks have been applied and then leave the baseboard for about an hour for the glue to dry. Once the glue has dried, I use the same process as earlier to trim off any excess planking with the bandsaw and belt sander. I'm looking for what I call a perfectly imperfect baseboard. This photo shows the baseboard after trimming and sanding. This speeded up clip shows me applying the first coat of stain to the baseboard. I'm using a walnut stain, which is my go-to stain for baseboards. I use the same color stain on all my baseboards as I try to keep them all consistent for display purposes. I apply a relatively thick coat of stain with a lint-free cloth to avoid particles of cloth sticking to the baseboard. As I apply the stain, I try to get an even coat and wipe off any excess with the cloth. I usually leave the first coat of stain to dry for around 12 hours, in this case overnight, before applying the next coat. This clip shows me applying the second coat of stain the next morning. Once the stain has dried, I'll apply 2 coats of wipe-on polyurethane varnish to finish the baseboard. I'll leave this video here as applying the varnish is pretty much the same process as staining. So, that's the baseboard for the Stuart No.8 complete. In the next video I'll make nozzles for the inlet and exhaust, and secure the engine to the baseboard. There will be more videos in this series coming soon. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe to support my channel. Thank you.